Today we have the opportunity to sit and talk with a different type of artist, a political cartoonist. There's nothing like a fist bump from President Lincoln to President Obama. Lexington is known for its thoroughbred horses, but they too sometimes help convey the news. So today we'll learn more about how Joel approaches his art and what is the basis for his opinion. Welcome back to Arts Resuscitation. Today it is my pleasure to sit with the wonderful, the talented, opinionated Joel Pett in Lexington, Kentucky. We're here at the Herald Leader where he works, and we are very interested in hearing more about him. Thank you for allowing me to come into your world of creation, and it is a wonderful world, and I'm going to give the audience an opportunity to see some of your work. But let's go ahead and start the conversation.
It's more like a landfill of creation, I would say. I apologize for what it looks like, Tim.
It looks like creation's going on. But you are a 3-time nominated and actual 2000 Pulitzer Prize winner. Congratulations.
Thank you.
I read somewhere that you said, okay, so what does that mean? Do you get free drinks or something like that? But what does it really mean to have people recognize and appreciate the work that you do?
You know, it means for the rest of your life it's attached to your name. And 13 years later, when somebody like you comes in, they mention it. And it's very, very impressive to the parents. I'm glad my dad was still alive to see me get that, because believe me, there were times in my life when I gave him plenty of reason to think I might not be a success.
So that worked out pretty well for you.
You know, I mean, it's hard to badmouth a Pulitzer. I have my ways of doing it if you'd like me to, but in fact, not really any big downsides to it.
Okay.
And some people think it's a Nobel. I think you're like wealthy after that.
Oh.
You know, like I think the Nobel you get like $1 million.
So you wanted to dispel that myth, huh? Well, unless you did get $1 million.
No, I think I got 5,000.
Okay.
Which I probably spent on liquor within weeks.
As you can tell, he's very honest, and we love it. Love it. So for you, which comes first? Which is the priority in your life, the pen or the politics?
The politics, definitely. But that's not universally true among editorial cartoonists, because it's this hybrid of thinking, writing, and drawing. And some people just come to it from drawing. Every kid loves to draw, right? Somehow we beat that out of them by the time they're about 10, as we do with music and dance and everything else, You ask any, 6-year-old, can you draw? They say yes. Can you dance? Yes, watch me. Can you sing? Yeah, listen to me. By the time they're 15, they're like, no, I can't. And you're an
Yes.
art teacher, right?
Music.
Music teacher. A lot of teaching is just trying to back them up and let them bring out what they used to do naturally, and forget all that stuff unlearn the stuff they learned. So there are plenty of cartoonists who come to it from just liking to draw. I'm not really one of them. I was just a really pissed off young person, who was looking for an outlet for the frustration that I felt and still feel at the human condition, which makes a really good target because it gives you job security. People ask you, what do you do on a slow day? And, there's always, hunger, poverty, refugees, war, and man's inhumanity demand to fill the gap. So anyway, that's a long answer. I came at it from the writing standpoint pretty much, and still do.
Okay. And I noticed that you do cue in on, topics that are of utmost concern to, most people, from hunger, as you said, to, I read something about the Olympics that cartoonists like to, I don't know if scrutinize is the best word, but like to write about it with...
And we use the analogies. Like when the Olympics comes around, you get like 2 weeks of free analogies, so like you're you get your ski jump analogy and your
Okay.
your shooting and analogy, and every other thing. The visuals are written for you because because everybody's watching the Olympics.
I
right?
see.
My favorite one from the last one, the summer one. I don't know if you remember this, but there was a South African runner. I forget his name, who had 2 prosthetic legs.
Yes.
And I think he's since been
from
charged
murder.
with killing his girlfriend.
Right.
Back
Oh yes.
then he was a hero.
Oh yes.
This was pre-murderous rampage.
Yes.
I just love the story, as if having artificial limbs was some kind of advantage to a runner.
Right.
Like,
That was
oh
a big
yeah, well,
issue.
anybody could do it.
Yeah.
And I just love the story, but I didn't care enough about it. I mean, personally, I could care less if you strap on 100-meter long artificial limbs and stand at the beginning and just fall. I declare you the winner. But so I ended up using it for an analogy about the 1%. They're watching some poverty-stricken person strapping on their prosthetic limb, and they're sitting there going, "Oh yeah, unfair advantage."
Right. Okay. Yes.
So that, that's what I really like to do more than anything, is make an analogy out of something that it's big news, but who really cares?
I guess more on a more serious note, I understand
More
that.
serious than hunger, food, and energy. All right.
Well, because I know that often cartoonists, because they are so opinionated and so graphic about their opinions, that they're often beaten.
Oh yeah,
harassed.
Oh, you know about CRN?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Not in this country.
Right,
In this country,
right.
we just get fired. But in other countries where they don't have such a tolerant tradition of free speech, it's a dangerous thing to do, to mock your political leaders. And it's funny, there's something peculiar about political cartoons that resonate with people. There's a reason that those riots a couple years ago over the Muhammad cartoons happened about cartoons and not about written things. And I'm not sure what it is. I think it's the accessibility, actually, especially if the drawing style is fairly simple. Like, people look at it and it doesn't look like this corporately polished advertising art that you think has gone through committees or something. It's clearly just looking at one person popping off. And I think people feel like empowered to pop back when they see that. I don't know. That's just my kind of theory about it, and it's also why I like a simple style, and not a polished one. I think that puts some layer that I can't really explain very well between you and the reader. But anyhow, CRNI, Cartoonist Rights Network International, is a nonprofit that tries to help cartoonists mostly in Africa and Asia and the Middle East, where drawing your senator like a turtle the way I do isn't roundly greeted with tolerance, if not outright laughter. So I'm glad that you know about that. CRNI, look it up.
There is a special wall on the 4th floor at the Herald Leader that showcases some of Joel's 30 years of artistic work. In 1999, Joel Pett received the Robert Kennedy Journalism Award. According to Joel, Idris is a very talented writer we expect to hear more from.
I should have shaved. I'm so sorry.
You mentioned political figures, and I noticed that I read, not that everything you read is true, but you allegedly made comments about Senator Mitch McConnell, that he's a dinosaur, a cockroach, a cross-dress hooker, and a stain on a blue dress of democracy.
Well, I didn't say that he was those things. I drew him as those things.
You drew him as those things. Okay, so why the descriptors of the senator in that regard?
Well, first of all, his career has matched mine precisely. He was elected to the Senate from Kentucky the same year I came to the Lexington Herald Leader. So I've had 30 years to draw him. And, you know, I mean, eventually you're going to get around to Cockroach and Stripper and Hooker and stuff. I mean, it's a long time. Nothing is better in the life of a cartoonist than a good foil. You know, someone who's just always there waiting to be slapped around. And McConnell suits that role for me very well. Because, in fact, I've never really agreed with him about hardly anything.
You and a lot of others.
Well, and just to give you some idea of the utter futility of this undertaking, my cartoons of him are all over the wall of his office in Washington.
Really?
Yes, framed. So he doesn't care. People don't care. You know, you start off thinking, you know, I'm going to get him. And in fact, no.
Okay. Rand Paul.
Yeah, a new foil. I must have the two best / worst senators of any cartoonist in the country to work with. Yeah, Rand Paul, fantastic. You know, a narrow mind and a huge ego. Exactly what you need.
Right.
I shouldn't call him narrow-minded. You know, I don't know him that well yet. But, you know, he does have his kind of off-the-wall things. And, you know, he goes crazy about the government forcing you to use low-flow toilets and, you know, things that you know, you just think, is that the worst problem that we've got right now? He's the fact that he thinks as a first-year senator that he can be president next, although of course Barack Obama did that, is, you know, I just love that. So I you know, I draw cartoons about it, you know, about his ego, about you know, I mean, he just talked about how if it was he would have fired Hillary Clinton, like, you know,
Yeah.
come on, okay.
Right.
First be a senator for a while. How about that? We'll see how you do. I went to Indiana in the 70s, early 70s, and, you know, played every day, you know, with my buddies. And there was an apartheid system on the 10 courts. There were 10 courts, right in 2 rows in Indiana's gym. And the number 1 court was always a game of kids, black kids from Gary and India. It was just, when you could wait there in line, as we sometimes did, and take your turn and call next. But, you know, there was you were not really accepted very well on that court. They were like, you know, what are you doing here? You know, which made it especially sweet if you could ever put together a team that would win and stay on that court for a game or 2. And the rest of it was, you know, a mix of, you know, kids from everywhere else. And over the years that I played there, which were 20 probably, you could just see the integration. I mean, it just happened right there in front of him. And the way the game changed. Like, in the old days, you know, you did not put your hands on people. You weren't always trying to maneuver them and stuff. And now, I mean, it's just so rough.
Right.
Like, guys will, like, literally knock you down,
yes.
dunk over you,
Yes.
and then, you know, look at you. I couldn't take it anymore.
Oh, it's definitely a rough and tough sport now.
It's not the dance that 6-year-old white guys used to do. Oh, a little hook shot. You know, it's just not. Plus, I feel I'm above racism charges because I grew up in Africa, right? So I'm like an African American. So I think, oh, come on, nobody would think I'm a racist.
Right.
Unless they think everybody is.
How was that? You were
was
very young.
Yeah, it was great. It was like the only 5 years you would have wanted to live in Nigeria.
Really?
Oh yeah. Right after independence, you know, 1960.
Okay.
You know, till before the Biafran Civil War and stuff. Seriously, it was like the best 5 years ever.
I didn't really see anything, not that you haven't done it, but I didn't come across anything of your opinions about the president.
Obama?
Yes.
Oh, there's plenty.
Okay.
Go back
I'll go back and keep looking for that.
I was a big supporter while he was running, but, you know, cartoons are not a great vehicle for rah-rah, you know. So, you know, I've been disappointed, you know, with various aspects of what he's done. But he's not a regular target, let's put it that way,
Okay.
you know?
Okay. Is there anything that's strictly off limits? You say, hey, people talk about it, but I'm just not going to touch that. Is there anything that you just won't touch?
Well, I mean, sex, religion, guns, politics, I mean, that's how opinion makers and opinion writers, you know, make their living. So really the answer is no, although, you know, there's plenty of things that aren't worth saying, you know,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
and plenty of things that could be misinterpreted. I mean, there are plenty of areas. I wouldn't draw Muhammad just to piss off fundamentalist Muslims, you know. I mean, why?
Mm-hmm.
Get some people killed so you could show that you have the bravery to speak freely in Kentucky, in a country where someone's paying you. You know, come on. I mean, it's not that brave. The real fear is not speaking up about things, getting caught up in the day-to-day news cycles, and, you know, I mean, you know, educating girls around the world, you know, or bringing clean water to villages is not exactly, it's never the big news. A lot of things are never the big news. Population is never the big news. You know, agribusiness, you know, that horrible corporate agribusiness thing that we have set up with those putrid, you know, what do they call the encaged factory farms, and, you know, just the whole thing. That's never really front page news. So you can get distracted and, oh, you know, today they made pot legal in Colorado, I'm drawn about that, which I am. But there's something like that every day. And if you just do that, you get to the end of the year and you realize, oh, well, I didn't draw about any of the really big things, you know, refugees or whatever else, you know, are affecting humankind. So that's the danger, not that you'll, you know, stray into some area that's too controversial or something. It's that you won't stray into areas that should be controversial, but they're accepted.
I see.
You know? If it took 50 years for one state, how long will it take for 50 states? Only because he smoked so much weed, he won't be able to do the math, right? So that, I hope, has the double message of, you know, progress is slow and it's really stupid that you still, you know, put people in jail for burning plants and inhaling this, you know, what comes out. But that it's also probably, if you're aiming for a career, say, in, you know, the space program or something, I'm guessing it's probably not going to help your cognitive abilities to a high degree. So anyway, that's what this will be like. That's a rough of my tomorrow's idea. Thinking, smoking. This is weed smoking. And then the last thing he says is, I can't do that. So anyway, that is in very rough form what I will produce for tomorrow. And I'll give you a better
UK
copy.
basketball.
Yeah.
Big topic here.
Yeah.
A couple of your sketches that I thought were very clever. You made reference in the Haiti
Oh yeah,
sketch.
I remember that.
Mm-hmm. It's like, you know, UK won, but, you know, but we're still here, but I still support them. A lot of irony in that. So when you make statements like that, and when you draw sketches like that, and maybe you answered that previously, but are you really trying to bring more attention to a subject that you think hasn't received enough attention, or are you using that opportunity to, at the same time, ruffle a few feathers?
Yeah, it could be either one. That particular drawing, as I recall, was on the heels of a mission by the UK basketball coach and some of his players to a goodwill mission of some sort to Haiti. So there was no real downside to it. I think I was just, you know, using the high visibility news factor of that story to, you know, playing off of it. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of what big-time college sports has become.
Mm-hmm.
And I draw a lot of cartoons against, against what they pay the coaches, against the way that they, shovel the players in and out, and they're not really students.
Mm-hmm.
Shuffle, I should have said. The way that they're getting ready to spend $110 million to upgrade Rupp Arena, which is already one of the great venues for college basketball.
I thought that sketch was with the homeless with the newspaper
Yeah,
overhead,
right. Yeah.
which advertised
They're getting
that.
ready to spend $100 and some million for the football stadium. It's just seems like the recession hit everywhere except sports somehow,
Mm.
in the real estate market in Washington D.C.
Mm. Obviously, you're aware that everyone has an opinion about you, as you have an opinion about so many other subjects. Do you read much of what's written about you?
Well, I read the letters that come to the paper, but is there more?
I just glanced through some things online, of course, and then what was so ironic too was that some of them started kind of going at each other over something that you had written about. So does that ever, let me breeze that into another question, does what's said about you or what's written about you ever impact, does it change how you approach? Does it change you at all? Does it affect you, your writing, your sketches?
The stuff on the internet I don't even see. The letters to the editor are just part of the job. Sometimes if I were to meet somebody personally who says, this affected me in this way, or, I don't think you probably meant this to, look like it did, but it did, interpret it this way, then it might give you a pause. But in general, it's more of a compliment to be spoken about than to be ignored, which, you don't draw stuff or write stuff just to be inflammatory, or at least, I don't.
Mm-hmm.
But you also, if nobody wrote any letters for 6 months, you'd sort of think, gee, I must not be doing my job.
Whether you agree with Joel's political politics, satirical viewpoints, or candid humor, perhaps it should remind us to often revisit the basis for our societal opinions.